All right, welcome everyone. Today we're diving into a seriously powerful explainer. We're going to map out the exact step-by-step blueprint to build real wealth from absolute scratch. If you've ever wondered what you'd do differently if you could go back in time to your teenage years with all the knowledge you have now, well, this is it. According to our source material today, we are going to walk through a very precise timeline of actions starting as young as 13 years old. But hey, don't worry if you're a bit older than that. Just consider this your ultimate rapid-fire catch-up checklist to get right ahead of the curve. So, how exactly do you become a millionaire when you're starting with literally $0? Sounds kind of like a trick question, doesn't it? But the secret to answering this isn't some massive initial investment. You absolutely do not need a huge inheritance to get going. The source argues that the true answer lies in capitalizing on the ultimate, most unfair advantage available in the entire financial world: time. When you start from zero, time is your heaviest currency. Okay, let's look at this core philosophy. Getting your money growing early is way more important than how much money you actually start with. Time in the market is like a snowball rolling down a hill, right? It just keeps gathering more and more snow until it inevitably turns into an totally unstoppable avalanche. It's a passive process, sure, but you have to actually pack that first snowball and give it a push. Section 1, ages 13 to 15, the foundation. So, if you're trying to build that snowball starting at age 13, you've got a massive advantage, but you also hit a little legal hurdle. You aren't actually old enough to invest on your own. The workaround? A custodial account. This is basically an investing account that's controlled by a parent or guardian for the benefit of a minor. By convincing an adult to open one of these with a low-fee broker like Vanguard, a teenager can start funneling small amounts, think birthday money or holiday cash, straight into the stock market. The source specifically highlights the S&P 500 index fund here, noting that it averaged a 12.58% yearly return over the 10 years leading up to May 2024. I mean, just imagine getting that kind of growth started before you even hit high school. Now, what's super interesting is how these custodial accounts actually break down depending on where you live. In the US, you generally have two main options, the UGMA and the UTMA. Both of them allow unlimited contributions, though you do have to watch out for gift taxes if the deposits exceed $18,000 in a single year. But the UTMA gives you a bit more flexibility, actually allowing investments in physical assets like real estate and fine art. And for viewers over in the UK, the source notes the equivalent is a Junior Stocks and Shares ISA, which lets you put in up to £9,000 a year in totally tax-free investments. At age 13, the main goal is simply getting that custodial account open. But as you hit 14, the source emphasizes something kind of surprising: hobbies. You see, when you don't have rent or bills to pay, you have the absolute freedom to try everything. The source shares this great anecdote about a teenager getting up at 4 a.m. for swimming practice. It didn't earn him a single dime, but it built this sheer discipline that he later used to completely outwork his competition in business. Then, at age 15, it's time to translate that discipline into cash. The advice here is to get a Saturday retail job to learn some basic social skills, and crucially, to start asking for cash for your birthdays instead of things like video games that you'll just forget about in a month anyway. But here's the crucial point. What do you actually do with that cash? You need to stash it. The source makes a really brilliant distinction here. A lot of teenagers save money just to blow it all on a new gaming console or a day riding roller coasters at a theme park. While having fun is obviously important, stashing means building a financial launchpad. Starting from absolute zero is the hardest thing in the world. So if you can stash away even just $100 as a permanent baseline, you are going to make your future journey significantly easier. Moving on to Section 2, ages 16 to 17, skill stacking and mobility. Let's talk about $500. Our source shares this amazing story of a teenager who took $500 of his stashed cash from part-time jobs and went out and bought a used iMac. Instead of handing that hard-earned money over to scammy online gurus selling fake courses, he bought actual usable equipment. He sat at that Mac and taught himself highly profitable skills, things like video editing and Photoshop. This right here is what skill stacking looks like. By the time you enter the real world, you want to bring actual tangible value to the marketplace so that companies don't have to waste time training you. And that brings us to a pretty strict rule for 17-year-olds. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And to be late is unacceptable. The source insists that getting your driving license as soon as legally possible is absolutely mandatory. Why? Because relying on unpredictable public transport makes you look unprofessional. Think about it. If you start a side hustle and lose clients simply because you can't reliably travel 30 minutes to meet them, you are literally throwing away opportunities. Pass your test, buy a cheap starter car with your stashed cash, and secure your own mobility. Section 3. Age 18, the adult launchpad. When you turn 18, the world legally opens up to you. And hey, if you're older than 18 right now, consider this your rapid-fire checklist to ensure your financial house is completely in order. We're going to break down the most critical components of this 7-step checklist right now, starting with where your money actually lives. You shouldn't just have one bank account. You really need two, ideally at totally different banks, to keep your savings completely out of sight and out of mind. First up, a checking account or current account with banks like Monzo or Bank of America for your daily money flow. Second, a high-interest savings account like Chase or Ally, strictly for a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. The source actually compares this emergency fund to a Fortnite shield potion. It protects you against unexpected hits so your income doesn't completely dry up if life decides to throw you a curveball. Now, let's tackle step 2, credit cards. Think of a credit score kind of like an Uber rating, but for your money. The source actively debunks the old-school myth that borrowing is always a bad thing, an idea they suggest was historically pushed by wealthy people to keep the working class from building leverage. The ultimate cheat code at 18 is to get a credit card. Use it for normal everyday expenses like gas and pay it off in full every single month. By doing this, you never pay a dime in interest, but you build an amazing Uber rating that will allow you to secure a mortgage and buy property at much, much lower interest rates later on. Step 4 on our checklist addresses a huge, often debated question. Is university a scam? The source takes a really interesting, nuanced stance here, which we're presenting impartially. They argue that for critical societal roles with direct career paths, we're talking doctors, nurses, teachers, university is absolutely essential and completely worthwhile. However, they strongly warn against taking on $60,000 to $100,000 in debt for degrees that don't directly lead to jobs, citing golf management as a prime example of unnecessary debt. For many teens, they suggest that jumping into paid apprenticeships or starting service-based side hustles like copywriting or web development might just be a much smarter financial move, which ties perfectly into step 5, avoiding bad debt. You see, good debt is leverage you use to buy assets that increase your net worth, like real estate or maybe a business loan. Bad debt, on the other hand, is consumer debt, borrowing money to buy things that immediately lose value. The source points out a pretty stark warning. 2.2 million drivers in the UK finance their cars, essentially trapping themselves in bad debt. Debt acts like a really heavy anchor dragging down your financial progress, so avoid financing cars at all costs if you are trying to build wealth from scratch. And that brings us to section 4, the long game, compound interest. All right, so we've built the foundation, stacked those skills, and set up the adult launchpad. Now we have to zoom out and look at the mathematical magic that makes this entire roadmap work. This is the absolute core of why you must start early. We are looking at a comparison of investing $250 a month at an 8% average return until age 65. Look at this. If you start at age 18, your investment grows to $1.5 million and completely tax-free if you're using the right accounts like a Roth IRA or an ISA. But if you wait just 10 years and start at age 28 instead, you end up with only $679,000, less than half. The math absolutely proves it. Starting just a decade earlier more than doubles your ultimate wealth. That right there is the true power of earning interest on your interest over time. We've seen the numbers, right? And we've walked through the exact timeline. Your financial snowball is sitting right there, perfectly packed, just waiting at the top of the hill. The only question left is, are you ready to give it that first push today? Because no matter what age you are right now, the absolute best time to start was yesterday. And the second best time is today. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Now go out there and start building that avalanche.